Hey everyone, quick note before we get into the show. For this episode, I'm using a temporary AI voice filler for my parts. I know a lot of you tune in because you want to hear me, my voice, my take, my style. That's the goal. I'm working on getting my voice fully recorded and dialed in so this show has more of that personal touch you all expect. Thanks for bearing with me while I get it set up, and thanks for listening. Tonight on Data and Dissonance, nature's fury hits Texas and the Carolinas. The feds discover mining isn't just for memes, and we ask why. The only thing spreading faster than storms is government incompetence. Buckle up, folks. This is episode 6, and we're coming in hotter than a FEMA press conference with no answers. Welcome to Data and Dissonance, the only show where free speech isn't just a checkbox. It's a constitutional duty that makes polite society deeply uncomfortable. I'm your host, Artie John Roy, your designated driver on this careening clown car of commentary. Let's meet tonight's panel, Brian, our resident political cynic, who's single-handedly keeping bourbon sales up while yelling at C-SPAN. Daniel, the conspiracy theorist who doesn't trust the government, the banks, or the expiration date on his milk. And Rachel, the voice of reason, with the emotional warmth of a tax audit. But she's the only thing keeping us from getting canceled mid-episode. So grab a drink, spark one up if it's legal in your state, or even if it's not, I'm not your dad, and settle in. It's episode 6, and things are about to get delightfully unhinged. Before we dive headfirst into this week's Doomscroll, a quick shout out to our main sponsor, the Caleb Rourke series. If you love thrillers that don't pander, plots that don't apologize, and characters with more grit than your uncle's coffee grounds, you're in luck. The first 2 books, The Covenant Protocol and The Prophet Directive, are out now on Amazon. Grab them today if you want stories that don't hold your hand and don't care about your feelings. And hey, we're always looking for new sponsors. If your brand can handle controversy, sarcasm, and an audience that still believes in the First Amendment, hit us up. We'll make you famous. Or infamous. No promises which. That's the Caleb Rourke series. Serious fiction for unserious times. All right, let's start with what's arguably the biggest tragedy this week. The catastrophic floods in central Texas. Over 120 lives lost, dozens still missing, entire towns in the hill country wiped away like they were drawn in chalk. Federal disaster teams are on the ground. The president visited Kerrville to see the damage firsthand. Meanwhile, FEMA's mobilizing, but let's be honest, they're not exactly known for speed. Brian, you've been watching this. Thoughts?
It's absolutely devastating. And while it's good to see disaster declarations and resources flowing, the sad truth is we see this pattern every time. Big promises, slow delivery. Doesn't matter who's in charge, the bureaucracy always manages to trip over itself when people need help most. And the media? They love filming the wreckage, but ask no real questions about why preparedness is always an afterthought. It's like Groundhog Day with funerals.
Yeah, Rachel, you mentioned this was sadly predictable?
It really was. The Hill Country has a documented flood history. But local governments keep chasing new development dollars without serious zoning rules. Come build your dream home next to the river. But they don't mention that river turns into a battering ram every few years. And let's talk infrastructure. We somehow find endless money for pet projects but drag our feet on basic flood mitigation. It's negligence, and it's killing people.
Or maybe it's not just negligence, it's a feature, not a bug.
Daniel, there it is. The conspiracy bell just went off.
Laugh all you want, but disasters are gold mines for certain folks. Land gets cheap. Developers swoop in. People sell out because they're desperate. Look at any major disaster zone. Someone's getting rich off the tragedy. I'm not saying there's a weather machine this week, but I am saying they'll exploit this like they always do. Follow the money. It's not paranoia if they keep cashing the checks.
He's not wrong. The vultures always circle, and the government agencies meant to help often just bury people in paperwork.
It's a harsh truth, but ignoring it won't help. The conversation needs to be about prevention, real planning, and helping people rebuild without selling them out.
Well said. Bottom line, this is a tragedy that demands real solutions. Our thoughts go out to the people in Kerr County and everywhere else struggling to pick up the pieces. They deserve better than empty promises and bureaucratic roadblocks. This episode is also brought to you by Freedom Fanny Packs, because when they try to take your rights, at least you can smuggle your dignity and your Slim Jim. Freedom Fanny Packs, now with a hidden compartment for your constitution and questionable life choices. Available wherever liberty is still legal. Next up, Tropical Storm Chantal, which just blew through Carolina and into the mid-Atlantic, leaving at least 5 dead, waist-deep flooding and power grid chaos. Governors declared states of emergency. FEMA's been dispatched under Trump's new streamlined protocols, and the political class is already fighting over who gets to take credit for promising money they don't have. Brian, you're up.
Look, man, these coastal states know the drill. Storm season isn't new, but you'd think every year it's some shocking revelation that wind and rain exist. Local governments let developers pave over wetlands, build fancy condos right on the dunes, and then act confused when the ocean takes it back. And then the media's out there with sad piano music talking about the human cost, while ignoring the fact zoning boards literally greenlit death traps. It's bipartisan stupidity. But let's be honest, Democrats especially love to scream climate change while refusing to fund anything useful like drainage upgrades or seawalls. But hey, let's ban gas stoves. That'll stop the floods, right?
Rachel, you had thoughts?
Yes, Trump's reforms are a step in the right direction. The FEMA Review Council he signed in January aims to cut red tape and empower state-level action. That's good policy. And let's be real. This wasn't about FEMA staff cuts or some budget shortfall. Those cuts haven't even taken effect yet. This was nature doing exactly what it always does when you have warm water, a slow-moving storm, and overbuilt coastlines. The real fix isn't banning gas stoves. It's early warning systems, river alarms, better drainage. Imagine if communities up and down the rivers had real-time alerts or automated sirens. That alone would save lives, without costing people their livelihoods.
You want real talk? It's because they want this chaos. It's a disaster economy. Insurance companies jack up rates or cancel policies. Developers then swoop in to buy wrecked land cheap when desperate people bail. And the government loves emergencies. It's the perfect excuse for temporary powers that last forever. Blue states especially love rolling out emergency declarations, like Oprah handing out free cars. You get a restriction, you get a restriction. Everybody gets a new law nobody voted on.
I'm not even going to argue, because it's true, both parties fail, but the Democrats especially can't resist using every natural disaster as a moral cudgel. Oh, your house is underwater. Clearly, you should stop using plastic straws. Meanwhile, they're flying private jets to conferences to tell you to eat bugs.
They'll regulate everything except the things that actually matter. Infrastructure? Nah, too boring. But let's make sure you're tracking your carbon footprint like it's parole.
I'm just waiting for the Democrats to propose a hurricane equity task force to ensure the flooding is distributed equally.
Well, if there's anything they love, it's forming a new task force that does absolutely nothing except spend your tax dollars on signage and HR training. But in all seriousness, our thoughts are with everyone in the Carolinas dealing with this mess. The real shame is, like always, the people who can least afford it will pay the highest price, and they'll get the least help.
This episode is also brought to you by Woke Repellent. Just one spray and your yard is a safe space for logic, reason, and good old-fashioned freedom. Warning, may cause sudden outbreaks of critical thinking and personal responsibility. Not available in California or on college campuses.
All right, let's shift gears to something the media probably gave about 12 seconds of coverage before going back to celebrity gossip. The U.S. just opened its first rare earth mine in 70 years, right in Wyoming. For anyone who doesn't know, rare earth minerals are critical for everything from smartphones to military hardware. Until now, we've basically been buying them from China, while lecturing them on human rights with one hand and handing them our manufacturing jobs with the other. Brian, what's your take on this move?
Honestly, it's long overdue. We've spent decades letting China dominate the supply chain. It's not just a trade issue, It's national security. You can't build advanced weapons or even wind turbines without these materials. I'll give Trump credit here. He's been pushing for domestic production and less dependence on Beijing since before it was cool. And now we're finally seeing ground broken. It's one of those rare moments government actually does something strategic instead of just symbolic.
Rachel, you're the independent voice of reason. Any worries here?
Sure, I'm all for strategic independence, but let's not kid ourselves. Mining is dirty. Environmental standards need to be real, not just waived because it's critical. If this turns into another corporate free-for-all with no accountability, the communities near those mines will pay the price. But yeah, I'd rather mine it here under US regulations than buy it from China, who'll strip mine half a province and toss the waste in a river. It's a trade-off, but it's one we need to make carefully.
Or you could say it's too little, too late. We let China get a decades-long head start because lobbyists wanted cheap goods and Wall Street loved the margins. Now it's national emergency time, when the Pentagon realizes their missiles need Chinese minerals. And you know these companies are going to squeeze every dime. Look at who owns the mines, where the profits go. It's not going to be your average American getting rich. It's going to be BlackRock, Vanguard, and all the usual suspects.
Well, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'd rather see Wyoming miners getting the work than send another check to the CCP. At least here we can hold companies accountable, if we bother to, and Trump deserves credit for at least pushing the issue before it was popular.
Good points all around. Bottom line, we can't keep pretending we're a superpower if we can't even make our own basic materials. Independence has a cost, but so does dependence. And I'd rather pay the former. All right, it's that time again. Rachel, hit us with this week's red pill.
This week's red pill is simple. Accountability is not punishment. We live in a country where no one wants to be held responsible for anything. Politicians want unlimited power without consequence. Corporations want your money without your complaints. Even voters want change without sacrifice. Holding people accountable isn't cruelty. It's what stops bad behavior from being policy. If you don't demand receipts from your leaders, they'll keep handing you IOUs in exchange for your freedom. So ask questions, expect answers, and never settle for platitudes. That's your red pill for the week. Swallow carefully.
Now let's dim the lights, cue the X-Files music, and welcome Daniel's conspiracy theory of the week. Daniel, what rabbit hole are we diving into?
All right, this week it's the weather modification angle. Everyone laughs when I say cloud seeding or weather manipulation, but these aren't sci-fi anymore. Governments admit to cloud seeding programs to induce rain. China did it for the Olympics. The US has used it in drought relief. So explain to me how you control the rain, but there's no chance you can control where or when storms intensify. Now, I'm not saying Tropical Storm Chantal was remote-controlled like an RC car, but it's worth asking who benefits from extreme weather. Disaster zones mean federal cash, insurance windfalls, land grabs when people abandon flooded homes. And I'm just saying, when there's trillions on the line in climate taxes, fear is a great motivator. Keep people scared of the weather. You can sell them anything. Think about it. Follow the patents, follow the money, follow the weather.
Well, there you go. That's this week's Daniel's conspiracy theory, where we keep him around so you don't have to Google this stuff yourself. All right, time to unleash the beast. Brian, it's your political rant of the week. Don't hold back.
You know what I'm sick of? People treating rights like privileges that need permission slips. The Second Amendment? But do you really need it? The First? Sure, but not if it offends anyone. Property rights? Only until the city wants to seize it for a stadium. The government doesn't give you rights. It's supposed to protect them. That's its only real job, and it can't even do that right. Both parties forget this. Republicans talk freedom, then vote for surveillance. Democrats say liberty, then want speech codes. Trump gets this better than most, which is why he's actually tried to roll back the bureaucracy strangling regular Americans. But even he's not perfect. Red flag laws? Not a fan. Never will be. Bottom line, if you need permission, it's not a right. It's a privilege. And if you let them redefine your rights as privileges, don't be shocked when they start charging you rent for them.
Strong words, Brian. That's why we keep you round. No sugarcoating here. Time to take a break from doom and gloom and enjoy our favorite carnival sideshow, This Week in Absurdity. Let's see what America's greatest minds cooked up. A city council in Oregon votes to ban gas-powered leaf blowers but approves a $2 million grant to study urban wind equity. California rolls out pilot program to replace police cars with electric golf carts in low-threat neighborhoods. A university in Massachusetts offers an elective on consent-based eye contact to fight toxic masculinity in classrooms.
I'm honestly torn between laughing and crying. Wind equity? We're now taxing the breeze?
Golf carts for cops. I'm sure the criminals will be terrified until they realize they can just briskly jog away.
Consent-based eye contact. At this point, they're just daring us to call them out. Next up, trigger warnings on oxygen.
Remember, folks, you can't fix stupid, but you can definitely give it a grant. Stay absurd, America. All right, time for everyone's favorite guessing game, Florida or fiction. I'll read a headline and you tell me if it actually happened in the Sunshine State or if I made it up. Man arrested for trying to ride an alligator through a Wendy's drive-thru.
Florida! No hesitation. That's practically the state sport.
Sadly, I think that's real. They probably have a special lane for it.
If it's not real, it should be. But I'm going with Florida.
That one's 100% Florida. Charges included trespassing and wildlife harassment. Woman sues psychic for not predicting her divorce.
I want this to be real, but I'm guessing fiction.
That sounds like the most American lawsuit ever. I'm saying real.
This one's actually true, just not Florida. California.
Daniel's right. California special. $25,000 suit thrown out because apparently the future is subjective. Deputy tases naked man juggling traffic cones on I-95.
That's a Florida classic. Lock it in.
It has to be Florida. No other state deserves it.
100% Florida. And probably not even top 10 weirdest that week.
Confirmed Florida. Charges included public indecency, resisting arrest, and poor circus skills. And that's this week's Florida or fiction. Florida, never change. Or do. Actually, please do.
This episode is also sponsored by Red Tape Energy Drink. Tastes like bureaucracy, kicks like Congress. Now in flavors like delayed permits and committee hearing. Red tape, because nothing says efficiency like needing 3 forms to open the can. Available wherever government regulations haven't banned it yet.
Before we go to final thoughts, let's take our Patriot Minute, where we highlight someone, something, or some idea worth celebrating in this messed up world. This week, it's the volunteer rescue crews in Texas and the Carolinas. These aren't government employees. They're neighbors with boats, church groups organizing supply drives, local businesses donating fuel, food, and time. When the water rises and the cameras leave, these are the people who don't wait for permission or funding. They just show up. That's the American spirit. Independent, tough, compassionate without the press release. So if you want to know what patriotism looks like, it's a neighbor hauling you out of your flooded house without asking who you voted for. That's your Patriot Minute. All right, folks, let's bring it home with some final thoughts from the panel. Because let's face it, you don't want just my voice ringing in your head all week. Let's hear it straight from the team. Brian, start us off.
Look, the world's not getting any saner, and it's definitely not getting more honest. Every crisis is a photo op. Every solution is a bill with 500 pages of pork, and half the country doesn't even know what their own rights are anymore. We've got politicians selling fear like it's on Black Friday special, and a media that's less journalism, more emotional manipulation. The worst part, too many Americans are lining up with their wallets open and their critical thinking switched off. My advice? Turn it all off once in a while. Talk to your neighbors. Actually read the Constitution. Remember, your rights don't come with a permission slip. And don't let any party, any corporation, or any talking head tell you freedom is negotiable.
Rachel, what's on your mind?
Here's my take. Accountability isn't punishment. It's supposed to be the price of power. But we live in a culture that treats it like some medieval torture. Politicians don't want consequences. Corporations want endless profit without responsibility. And voters want change without sacrifice. It doesn't work that way. You don't get to demand better while staying comfortably uninvolved. I don't care what side you're on. If you're not willing to call out BS when your team does it, you're not serious about fixing anything. So ask questions. Demand answers. Vote. Protest. Write your representatives. And don't ever, ever apologize for expecting the people in charge to do their damn jobs.
Daniel, what's your closing word for the people?
My final thought? Follow the money, follow the fear, and ask who benefits from keeping you scared and divided. Look, conspiracies aren't about lizard people half the time. They're about very normal people who want power and profit. And keeping you dumb, angry, and distracted is the easiest way to get it. So question everything. The official story, the convenient headline, even your own assumptions. Because the moment you stop asking why, that's when you're easiest to control. I don't want anyone taking what I say as gospel. I want you to do your own digging. That's the only way we stay free.
You know, I think that's what this whole show is about at the end of the day. It's not about us telling you what to think, it's about making sure you do think. That you don't just swallow the headline, that you question the motives of the people profiting from your fear, your division, your outrage. The world is always going to throw disasters at us, natural and man-made. Politicians will always try to turn tragedy into votes. Media will always try to turn your eyeballs into ad dollars. But you have a choice. You can turn it off, you can speak up, you can vote differently, you can help your neighbor when the cameras aren't on. That's why we do this show. Not to preach, but to spark something. Remember to speak truth and stir thought. Thanks for joining us on Data and Dissonance. We'll see you next time.